I'm hitting going live. It says I'm live now. I don't know where I'm live though. I'm not gonna lie. Hold on. Just wait. Wait for it. Keep waiting. I have hit every single live thing that I can. Whoop. Okay. It already has an ad, so that's interesting. Let's see. I think I'm live. Okay, real quick here. If you can hear me, go ahead and post only an emoji of your choice in the comment section. That's going to be the easiest way for me to be able to know that I am indeed live. Now, for those of you who are curious, my setup is nuts right now. I have a computer here that I'm going to be using to analyze the footage that we're working with, connected to an iPad over here that I'm using to stream a camera up there and this at the same time with this audio. It's going to be an absolute adventure. There's no promises on this working well whatsoever. So I just want to make sure that you all know that. I'm going to try switching my screens here to see. Okay, so far so good. So far so good. The stream looks to be doing okay, I think. I'm going to see if I can pull up the chat. All right, looks like chat is going well. This is a nightmare for me, guys. I have never done a stream like this whatsoever. But my goal is to see if we can get this squeezed past the copyright systems of CBS, because they have claimed a lot of revenue from me, which is a little disheartening. So with that in mind, if you are wanting to be able to help support this video, I'm going to try to make sure that this stays live on some level for you to be able to see or consume. Hopefully it doesn't get cut, but we'll find out. If it stays up live, I will leave it public and you'll be able to use this in addition to the initial video that I did. If it doesn't stay live, if it's claimed or shut down by CBS, then I will see if I can get it onto my Patreon under a different listing so that if you still want to see it and you want to have that value, you can go over there and see it. No promises on any of this, because if there's anything, it's that creators will get screwed over by the copyright systems of YouTube. So we'll see what I can do here. And let's see here. Looks like we've got people coming in. New sub, favorite channel, thank you so much. I am trying to keep up with this. I don't have the ability to turn on slow chat because I am there's just so many devices going on, so I'm gonna try. But to add some fun for those of you who are watching, you can, this is so stupid. This is such a silly idea. I just wanted to find a way to make this more lighthearted. And I'm gonna unpack some of the stuff that I covered in the first video and then dive into the analysis, and we'll make this as detailed and efficient as my normal videos are, but hopefully with a little bit more fun behind it. First, thank you for the donations. And on that note, if you donate, I'm gonna set some tiers here. One, I don't know that I'll be able to keep track of quick enough to say thank you by name, but thank you in advance. It's amazing to me, and I appreciate it, especially since this is not gonna be in any way monetizable after. I'm sure as soon as I show any footage of this interview, it's gonna shut down immediately. But what I'm gonna do is for every $1 donation, I have 3 different wigs here. This is so stupid. I just, I just wanted to have fun on it somehow. Every $1 donation, I will be wearing the long wig that you saw before. This thing is super, super long, and I will have to switch wigs as fast as donations come in. So this is the long wig, and I'm gonna have to try to roll with this. As soon as the donation comes in, I put it on, continue my analysis. For a $5 donation, I have to switch over to one shorter than that, and I have one shorter than this. So you're more or less removing hair as things go on. And I will be wearing this just pile of good that's just a mess right now. I'll be wearing this one for every, oh my God, stop. I have to have time. So for every $5 donation, this one. For every $10 donation, it goes one shorter from there. And this is the limit of my wig, so it looks like this. This is for every $10 donation, and I'm going to try to keep up with this as often as I see things in the chat. It's going to get nuts. I have no doubt, but I'm going to give it my best. So right now it looks like we're doing $5 donations. So that means that this is going on. Please be patient as I frantically switch throughout the deal. It's going to be a lot of fun and hopefully add some lighthearted stuff. There's also some crazy, some more weighty topics during this interview that can be triggering for some people. I know that this is hard to take as I, oh my God, as I switch wigs frivolously like this. Okay, here's the $10 one. I hope you enjoyed. Y'all gotta slow down just a hair here. There are some triggering topics here coming up, so try to keep in mind that there might be some difficult topics to work through, and hopefully this adds a little bit of good Lord Jesus, people. Simmer, simmer just a second. I don't know that I could talk. What was I thinking? Okay, hold on. So I will try to keep these lighthearted, but just be aware that there are some triggering topics that are discussed in this interview, and just keep that in mind. Without further ado, let's cover the initial deal here. Hey, now, I don't know what to do with the 25 thing. I'm going to keep it here. So let's see here. In the last one, some things that I want to clarify for people is that I didn't really know much about this couple. I wanted to do a little bit of research, but I've been too busy, so I kind of walked into this with, okay, hold on, looks like a $1 thing here, with the idea of being unbiased was the best way that I could keep myself being, oh, these look fantastic. So I didn't know what like Meghan's last name was. I don't to this day know what the royal family's last name is, or if they have one. I only know it as Prince Harry. But I know very little about him. I do know that Harry has some pretty sketchy, oh my goodness, pretty sketchy stuff in his past, specifically centered around racism and whatnot, and that is something that I never will support here on the channel ever. So if that's what you align with, go ahead and hop off now. Also, something that needs to be said is that most people who are from money will always want more money, and I don't know what to do with $50. Well, thank you, but what do I do? I guess that's, wait, there, $50 ones. These are staying up here. This is moving too fast. I can't keep up. Y'all are insane. So that side of things, I didn't know. Also, the sniffing. I pointed it out in the video, and my wife was like, hey, this is probably due to pregnancy, but since I am not a woman and we haven't gone through pregnancy, I didn't want to speak on that, so I wanted to let people go ahead and come to that conclusion. I appreciate all the comments pointing it out. It's true. It's probably centered around the pregnancy. That happens. Okay, good. I think we're caught up, right? So far, I think we are pretty well caught up, and for those of you who are suggesting that I watch The Crown, I have, and that's about my exposure of the royal family. Not gonna lie. $5. This is the $5 one. This is it. I'm on the $5 one. Cool. $1. Oh no. So I have watched that. That is my knowledge of things here. I really appreciate all these donations, but when the read starts, I might not be able to really get to it because this is nuts. This is nuts. I've never had so much hair leaving and going onto my head all at once. So thank you. Thank you in advance. But during this next part of the analysis, I'm going to keep as many details as I can into it, which is really important to me as far as the quality of the read goes. You know what? I'm second guessing my idea with the wigs, guys. I'm second guessing it just a little bit. All right, let's see here. I'm going to just leave this one on for like the next, I don't know, 5 minutes, and then I'll switch across, and whichever there's more donations of, I'll switch to that one. I've got to find a way to slow this down. But during this, I will be going in and building off of the analysis that I've already done. I've already done the full hour-long analysis before, and I'm going to be adding to that. So if you haven't seen that, I highly suggest that you do go and check that one out first. It's very fortunate that it's live. I put multiple versions of it live before, but kept them unlisted, and CBS claimed and blocked all of them to where I couldn't show them. They wouldn't even let me release them. So I have no idea what I'm going to be anticipating with this. But as you can see here, I will have the ability to change screens. This will pop it over into my other screen where we'll be able to watch the reactions. I won't be able to do any zooming or anything like that, but I will at least be able to watch. And I will also be reviewing the footage live with you as best as I can. So it's going to be a little crazy, and I will zoom back and forth like this as I talk to you, and we will just dive in from here. So let's just put a pause. Thank you so much for the super chats. I appreciate them. If you do want to keep them going, I do appreciate that. I'm going to take this off because I'm going to get really warm really fast. I don't know what I was thinking. In the past, when I've done live streams like this, there's been like 1 or 2 super chats every couple seconds, if that. And so this is a lot. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much. But I think I've chit-chatted enough and given enough of an introduction. I will try to answer questions as they come along, but it's going to be pretty tough. So I'm going to go ahead and just see if I can start into the actual analysis itself, diving in right from where we left off, the interview in the first video. So I will also make sure sound's coming through, so on and so forth.
Not many people have asked if I'm okay, but it's a very real thing to be going through behind the scenes.
Okay, so right off the bat, we'll talk a little bit about the expressions that she just has here. She's talking about how difficult a certain tour was. Now, tours are hard. They're hard for people, period. It doesn't matter if you're royalty or in leadership in some area. It's just difficult to keep up with tours. They're very exhausting, and even if there's not a reason for it, they can be emotionally draining. So she's talking about that. That's where she's at right now. She's talking about a tour that they were going on. So she does a pretty sizable head shake and eye block during that time. And there are 2 possible reasons for that. Either 1, it's the negative emotions centered around that tour, or 2, she's blocking herself from possible deceit. Now, throughout the rest of the interview before this, I hadn't seen any signs of outright deceit. There are a few reasons for that, and I want to tell you why. 1, she has been trained as an actress, and that's important to note. But something that does need to be distinguished is there is a different method behind acting as opposed to lying. And the reason for that is that acting teaches you to fall into a character, and that character should be convincing. But in that character being convincing, that doesn't mean that they're not being truthful. The deceit side of things activates a different area of the brain because of the emotional, moral, and sometimes physical implications behind the deceit. So that means that some actors and actresses who are fantastic actors and actresses can just be hot, nasty garbage at lying. This can pop up and has popped up in my experience and from what I've seen and from other people that are in this field. It can pop up regularly. For instance, consider Amber Heard is a subpar actress at best, but she's a better actress than she is a liar because they are 2 different facets in areas of psychology and how your brain functions. So there is still the possibility that Meghan during this can fall into a character and try to pull that across all of it, but that doesn't mean that she won't be able to leak the subconscious tells of deceit. And a lot of the times what they are is there's not tells of deceit, there's subconscious tells of nonverbal misalignment, aka the emotions are saying one thing while her words are saying another. It's my job to ask and find out why that is. Sometimes that leads to deceit. Sometimes that just leads to the fact that she feels differently than what she's saying, which is technically lying, but not an outright, I didn't do this or I did do this. I hope that makes sense. It is an important thing to be able to hash out here, is that her training can help her, but it won't prevent her from being unreadable. Most of the time when a person's unreadable, it has a different psychological deal behind that, perhaps psychopathy, sociopathy, something that removes the guilt. Also, I've been having cold symptoms for the past 2 days. Sorry about the coughing. Let's keep watching this. Switch scenes.
The answer is, would it be fair to say not really? Okay, and it's really been a struggle.
Yes. Well,
Okay, so she said yes, she does some eye blinking in there as well, some possible eye blocking. but during that time, it's a strong affirmation gesture, and it does also make logical sense as well. Can you let me know in the comments? Okay, yep, I was about to ask. So this is gonna get weird. I'm turning up my desktop audio, which might feed into my microphone audio, and this could get messy. Really messy. I tried to find a way to get around this, and there wasn't really a way to get around this. So I am hoping that that this goes okay. I'm sorry if the audio is garbage from here on out. I have turned it all the way up, as I'm sure you might have been able to see via the stream. So we'll see what happens here. I'm going to continue from here on out. I am so sorry for all the weird technical difficulties that are just flying off the rails here. Didn't know what to do with this. Trying my best to get content out to you as best as I can. So please be forgiving. For those of you who have donated in the meantime, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. You are quite literally making this video possible, because I can guarantee you CBS sure as hell isn't. So thank you. Let's give this a shot.
I would have to say, in South Africa, when the reporter stopped and asked, "Are you okay?" And oof, we all felt that. Why?
So she has this common tell for her where it's an increase in blinking centered around negative emotions. And this is something that's important to note in her baseline, because if it pops up again later on, then that means that we're more likely to be able to distinguish whether or not it's deceitful. Say, for instance, she says she feels really good about something, but she has that rapid increase of blinking. Well, then we know that's a misalignment, and we know that that increase in blinking means that it's negative, which then can lend us to understand that she might be lying there. This is where it's really muddy with nonverbal communication, and you can't cut corners here. You really just can't cut corners. You have to just be tedious with it. It's difficult and frustrating, but it's important. And I'm sorry if this gets boring for you, but that's the truth of it. A lot of this can give you, it's very tedious work, but I appreciate you sticking around. I'm gonna try to read some of these comments real quick. You know, I can do with the echo, yeah, see, that's the issue that I was worried about. Let's see if I can figure this out. Tell you what, oh man. Worse than quiet audio, yeah, volume is better, but there's an echo. Ooh, I wonder. This could be interesting. I'm gonna do a no-no. Every time that this comes on, I'm turning off my microphone. This is so hairy, guys. You're more or less just paying for my therapy to make up from the technical issues in during this stream. So every time that I'm gonna play footage, I'm turning off my microphone. When I start talking, I'll turn it on. Wish me luck here. All right, microphone is.
Why did that question strike such a nerve? What was going on with you internally at that time?
That was the last day of the tour. You know, those tours are, I'm sure they have beautiful pictures and it looks vibrant, and all of that is true. It's also really exhausting.
Can you hear me now? Ha! Oh my God. Also, I tried the headphones thing. I'm gonna see if I can get some corded headphones. The issue is that when I plugged in headphones, it made it to where it didn't sync up the desktop audio. I'll see if I could get some headphones. Actually, you know what? No, I'll just keep working with this. A lot of people are frustrated and whatnot, and I get that. I really do get that. I would also be quite frustrated during this situation. I'll try to figure it out. So we saw the negative blinking that came in during that time, which we know is a tell of negative feelings centered around that. So that lines up synchronization-wise with the emotions behind it. Tours are exhausting. They can look pretty, but they can be exhausting. That is true, and her emotions are lining up with that. So that's just showing synchronization, but that's not really an important question right now. Let's keep watching, and I'll keep trying this wonky fix here.
So I was fried, and I think it just hit me so hard because we were making it look like everything was fine. I could understand why people were really surprised to see that there was pain there because we were doing our job. Our job was to be on and to smile. And so when he asked me that, I guess I had felt that it had never occurred to anyone that I wasn't okay and that I had really been suffering. And I had known for a long time and had been asking the institution for help for quite a long time.
Help for what?
Can you hear me? I think you can. So during this part, this is about where we're about to get to the triggering areas of things. She struggles with mental health. And I want to go ahead and make really, really clear, just for me speaking to you, not as me being a creator and nothing like that, and not even related to this, but there are really difficult issues in people's lives. Like in mine, I still work daily, regularly, on maneuvering negative thoughts. We'll just keep it at that, and you attach which negative thoughts you have to that as well. And so a lot of people who might not understand or want to understand, or they're too hurting to be able to understand, is that despite fame, despite more income, despite all of this stuff, these negative thoughts, it doesn't mean that they'll change, because a lot of the times those negative thoughts, they come from within us, and they're something that we have to work through. And so during these next parts, as she's talking about this, I'm not really going to look for lies. I don't want to look for lies in this area, because if she is suffering from stuff like this, which likely is, many people of fame are, it's not right of me to attack her during those times, regardless of who she is. I don't care if you do or don't like Meghan. She's kind of neither here nor there for me. But for the thousands of people that do have very intense issues and have to work through self-harm or suicide, this is something that I'm not going to try to attack. So we'll work through this area and we'll continue back on from there. But I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt here, because the last thing that a person who might be working through something like that needs are more people throwing fingers and doubt their way. So I hope you understand that. I understand that you might not like Meghan. I get that. But that's what the decision that I've come to is here. So we'll kind of work through this area. I hope you understand. And then we'll pick up in the more intense areas of the read after this. I hope you're okay with that. That's just the way it's going to have to be.
After we had gotten back from our Australia tour, which was about a year before that, and we talked about when things really started to turn, when I knew we weren't being protected. And it was during that part of my pregnancy especially that I started to understand what our continued reality was going to look like.
What kind of protection did you want that you feel you didn't receive?
I mean, they would go on the record and negate the most ridiculous story for anyone, right? If I'm talking about things that are super artificial and inconsequential.
Okay, so during this time, she does flash when she's saying super artificial and inconsequential. She flashes a little bit of disgust centered around that. There's a lot of nose shaking during this time, and her eyebrows, which she uses as accent points to the verbs she's saying, are kind of going nuts. So there's a lot of nonverbal communication that's happening around here that, at very least, would be important for me to note. Important for me to be able to push harder at, ask harder questions. And so Oprah asks pretty intense questions during this, but then she also doesn't push very hard if they're unanswered. I respect that side of things. If I were in the couple's shoes, I would respect or appreciate that. But also it kind of makes it to where us, as the viewer, we don't really get to see truth if need be. But there's not enough that I know in this area. There's something that's going on non-verbally with her. She's processing and it's showing up for her, but it's not enough to say it's a lie. But I don't know enough about that entire situation to be able to weigh in. So I'm not going to. And I'm going to go ahead and address some folks in the comments. If you don't like me, that's fine. Don't stick around and leave negative comments because it's just a waste of your time and it's a waste of mine. And frankly, it's a waste of most everybody else's as well. I get that you might not like me and I get that you might not like what I'm seeing and what I'm saying. I have no agenda here. The couple, they mean very little to me. I didn't know much about them before this. I know way more about them now than I wanted to. And so that's kind of the long and short of that. But if you're here just to throw shade, cool, I guess, but you're wasting everyone's time. So just go ahead and head along. If you want to find somebody else or something else, go ahead and do that. I don't care. It's just a waste of time. Now, that being said, that's the only time I'm going to clap back at some level of ignorance. And you're okay to disagree. You're not okay to just be needlessly hateful towards me or especially my audience or anybody who watches. I can take it. It's not their job to put up with your ignorance. That's that. Okay, now, let's dive back into this. I'm going to try to more or less handle this as best as I can. I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty scattered and I'm having trouble concentrating because I'm navigating 55 billion things right now. So I'm going to try to be as detail-oriented as I can here, but let's just go ahead and go, okay? Cool.
But the narrative about, making Kate cry, I think was the beginning of a real character assassination, and they knew it wasn't true. And I felt, well, if they're not going to kill things like that, then what are we going to do? Separate from that, and what was happening behind closed doors was, we knew I was pregnant. We now know it's Archie, and that it was a boy. We didn't know any of that at the time. We can just talk about it as Archie now.
So during that time where she's talking about Archie, she does a specific gesture towards her nose again. This could be the sniffing, but I didn't see a sniff anywhere near or around that. Could still be the nose running thing. I find it odd that there wasn't anything centered around that before, but she does sniff afterwards. During that time, she also flashes a contempt expression. So I'm assuming, which you'll have to fill me in probably in the comments, that they weren't allowed to speak about, or there was something that was negative centered around their child. I'm not sure. I know that there's something that has to do with the color later on, and that's another thing that we will tackle when we get to that point, but that's later on. And so what I'm seeing from this is that she has negative emotions related to the pregnancy of her child earlier on, and that has been reaffirmed by her nonverbal communication. This just means that what I'm seeing still lines up with my understanding of her nonverbal baseline. Also, I am not judging Meghan and Harry off of who they were. I'm judging off of how much they at least believe what they're saying now, their perceived authenticity. Because there's a difference between absolute truth and perceived authenticity. A person can feel like they're telling the truth and not be, but they feel it, so they will give off all the signs of authenticity. That doesn't mean that what they're saying is true. It means that they're not lying in their mind. So from what I see so far, she does seem to be showing authenticity, at least from her perspective. And some other things that I want to just clear up for you. I still don't fully buy the idea that she didn't search anything about the royal family. That just seems illogical to me, especially in today's climate, we'll just say. It just doesn't seem likely. Maybe it's true, her body language just didn't show enough for me to say absolute lie, but my thought processing really could get to, yeah, that seems pretty false. if you know what I mean. But I'm not here to give you just my opinion. I want to show you what the nonverbals say, and then I'll let you know my opinion. And sometimes my opinion is in addition to the nonverbals, and sometimes it doesn't line up with the nonverbals. I want to make that clear. That being said, we're going to go ahead and keep moving forward with the stream.
And that was when they were saying they didn't want him to be a prince or a princess, not knowing what the gender would be, which would be different from protocol, and that he wasn't going to receive security.
What?
It was really hard.
What do you mean?
He wasn't going to receive security. This went on for the last few months of our pregnancy, where I'm going, hold on a second.
That your son and Harry, Prince Harry's son, was not going to receive security?
That's right. I know.
But how does that work?
Okay, so you can see some contempt microexpressions slipping in again and again and again centered around this. And assuming she's true, right now there hasn't been enough desynchronization non-verbally for me to say that she's lying. And that actually pops up regularly, that there's not enough tells to say she's lying. And I don't have the liberty to just be like, oh, she's obviously lying, because I try to base what I say off of what I see, not off of what I feel. So based off of what I see, I don't have enough to say she's lying, but I do have enough to say she has contempt and anger towards this situation, which if it's true, would be very frustrating to have kind of the privilege of safety removed because they're stepping away from the crown. Money set aside, I could see how that would be frustrating for them. Understandably. I'm sure that for those of you who are either like heads of work or have platforms to stand on, the risk factor that comes into play with that is small compared to their risk factor. There's a lot of people that would love to hate them and do. And that risk factor needs some form of safety, and if that's removed, especially from a child, that's kind of unfortunate. That's just really unfortunate all the way around. So that's where a lot of my patience with their possible shenanigans or possible deceit, a lot of you know some backstories that I don't know. I haven't seen it non-verbally, but that's where my patience with them comes from. It's because I want to, if anything, give people a benefit of a doubt so that they can show change rather than not. I hope that makes sense to you. I'm going to keep going down this road, and let me know in the comments if you would like me to fast forward on to the part with Harry and Meghan, because we've been doing this stream for a while. I don't even know how long we've been doing this stream, but it's been a while, and we've only been through 3 minutes of a 54-minute video. So some skipping around might have to happen. But let me know if you would like to see that part instead of just waiting through all of only Meghan's part. I'm happy to do either.
How does that work? It's like, no. Because if he's not going to be a prince, it's like, okay, well, he needs to be safe. So we're not saying don't make him a prince or a princess, whatever it's going to be. But if you're saying the title is what's going to affect their protection, we haven't created this monster machine around us in terms of clickbait and tabloid fodder. You've allowed that to happen, which means our son needs to be safe.
So how do they explain to you that your son, the grandson, the great-grandson of the Queen, is not going to have, he wasn't going to be a prince? How do they tell you that? And what reasons did they give? And then say, and so therefore you don't need protection?
There's no explanation. There's no version. I mean, that's the other piece of it.
Who tells you that?
Okay, I'm trying to monitor a lot of stuff, and I'm seeing a lot of you wanting me to go ahead and skip on through to the part with Harry and Meghan, and I understand that. And so I have watched through Meghan's, and I'll go ahead and let you know kind of my synopsis as to my feelings towards her area of things. She does not have as good relationship with the people that she's saying she has okay relationships with. And in those sorts of situations, it's very rarely only because of one side. It's usually a two-sided coin. And that means that likely there are areas of Meghan that are just not super great, to put it gently and mellowly. And there are areas of the royal family that are not super great, once again, to put it gently and mellowly. During this interview, it is structured to be able to give voice only to one side. So it's a bias interview to begin with. That being said, I'm sure that we would welcome an interview from the other side, and I would welcome it, and I would love to be able to take a look at that side of the interview. From this side of things, during Meghan's recollection of things, I did not see any points that were massive enough for me to say this is deception. Largely because either one, she's very practiced and possibly psychopathic. I don't know her mental state. I am not a psychologist. I'm just saying I didn't see her nonverbal tells of possible deceit. Or two, it's because she's being authentic. And being authentic from this point on. People can change. I know that's hard to believe, but people can change. During this time, I didn't see those tells of deceit. I might be able to do another live stream with the rest of her side of the interview because it's still something that's pretty important. Like, I feel like it's a very important thing to be able to do. And I have gone through the footage myself. I cannot fight with CBS on copyright stuff. So trying to do all of this stuff and make a video and get it out and them take all the revenue and me worry about paying bills, it's just a little much. So I'm seeing tons of people now saying not to skip. Please don't skip, don't skip, don't skip, don't skip, don't. But you said a second ago to skip forward. Okay, I see how it's going to be here. I will go ahead and try for a bit more. I'm just a little worried about the timing of things because it's already been a 30-minute video and we're through 4 minutes of it. So at this time, it should be done by midnight, which I don't have that kind of time. But tell you what, I'll keep going then. A lot of you are saying don't skip, so I hear you. I hear you on that, and we'll keep up with that. All right, microphone off and continuing on the...
I heard a lot of it through Harry and then other parts of it through conversations with family members. And it was...
I got to get so far on that one. So during that time where she's saying, I heard a lot of from Harry, she's tucking her chin down, which is a defensive gesture. There's a lot of vulnerable spots in your neck. And so speaking just from a life-preserving side of things, we are hardwired to preserve more vulnerable parts of us. It's throughout all of nature. It's in us as well. So during that time, that does raise a red flag to me that she's doing that defensive gesture. But I don't know whether it's in regards to the negative connotations of what she's speaking of or because she's covering a lie. Both of them are possible. I don't know. And frankly, I don't think anybody can really know for sure because that's just how nonverbal communication works. None of it is 100% guaranteed. None of it. We don't understand the human mind, so we don't know for sure. It's only going to be 70 to 80% accurate at best. I'm looking forward to nonverbal communication being a little bit more reliable in general. We're working with an unknown source, so everything built off of that is going to waver. I hope that makes sense to you. I'm sorry if that's really disappointing. It is to me. It's very frustrating to me. I'm trying to figure out ways to overcome that just in the research field, but that's part of it. Let's keep watching this video.
The decision that they felt was appropriate. And I thought, well...
Was the title, was him being called a prince, Archie being called a prince, was that important to you?
If it meant he was going to be safe, then of course. All the grandeur surrounding this stuff is an attachment that I don't personally have, right? I've been a waitress, an actress, princess, a duchess. I've always just still been Meghan, right? So for me, I'm clear on who I am independent of that stuff. And the most important title I will ever have is mom. I know that.
Okay, so during this time, she has a lot of shrugs that are sprinkled in, both synchronized and desynchronized. So during these times, for those of you who don't know, whenever shrugs start seeping in, if it's synchronized, it's usually leaning towards authenticity. If it's desynchronized, it's showing insecurity. I know that's confusing, and yes, a lot of nonverbal communication reading is confusing. That's why I've studied for 15 years on it. So during this time, she has all of that, which just leads me to believe that she's not as certain as to what she's saying, and chances are that makes sense. A lot of people who are in places of fame and power, they appreciate their places of fame and power. That just is kind of why they're there. Some people get trapped in it. Don't get me wrong. You can get trapped in fame. But a lot of the times people who are in places of fame and power are there because they want to be. Not all the time. Don't at me. And then after that, she said that her most important title is mom. And she does some weird nonverbal communication, both with her head movements and her facial expressions. And the reason that I paused it there is because, at least to me, that means that in her brain, something was processing beyond the black and white nature of her words. That she's saying, obviously, the most important thing is mom, but in her mind, as she's saying that, there are other parts of her that are popping up as in competition. And a lot of the times, people will say things that they need to be true. They just need it to be true. Like, most important title is mom. That's the thing. And they need that to be true. But part of them, their selfish parts, will still want other parts to be just as important. So that can lead to an internal struggle, which represents in an external weird misalignment cluster that you saw there. So that's what I'm seeing during this part, and we're going to continue watching from here. I know that a lot of you are like leaving comments as I'm going along with this. I would like to be able to kind of feed off of those. I just can't. They're moving too fast, and I'm trying to do this. So if you're commenting stuff, I appreciate it, and I just can't get to it. I physically can't. I'd love to. That being said, I'm going to keep watching this video.
But the idea of our son not being safe, and also the idea of the first member of color in this family not being titled in the same way that other grandchildren would be. You know, the other piece of that conversation is there's a convention, I don't know if it's George V or George VI convention, that when you're the grandchild of the monarch, so when Harry's dad becomes king, automatically Archie and our next baby would become prince or princess or whatever they're going to be.
So for you, it's about protection and safety, not so much as what the title means.
That's
to
a
the
huge
world.
piece of it, but I mean,
And that having the title gives you the safety and protection.
yeah, but also it's not their right to take it away.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, so I'm seeing that something is going on with one of the commenters here, and I've seen it enough. I'm going to track down his account and block him from the comment section. I don't even know what's going on here, but I don't have an interest, and if enough people are pointing it out, then I have no interest. So sorry about that. If enough people are pointing it out, you're going to get removed. I just don't have patience for ignorance. Not today. Just not today. So I'm reporting it, and hopefully that clears some stuff up. So sorry if that was you. You had plenty of chances. A lot of people were trying to give you a lot of chances. So yeah, have fun, you know. Just have a good time, I guess. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and dive back into the actual analysis. During this time, this brings into an area of racism. And that is something that Harry has shown in his past with a poorly thought through Halloween costume, which is such a needless thing to show racism on, that nothing needed to happen with that. Like, he should never have done something like that. And if you're, I don't approve, long story short. And obviously she's pretty frustrated too. If you want the true tells of things, look at the tenseness of her jaw and the continual and repeated micro-expressions of anger in her eyebrows. Those are all going to be tells of anger and frustration centered around this specific issue. And it deserves to have some anger pointed towards it. I don't think that anybody should ever be eliminated or disqualified or qualified for something because of the color of their skin. I think that's the most shallow, ignorant way to ever approach anything. But unfortunately, it happens. She's frustrated by it too, and I'm hoping that other people who are watching this and seeing that there's still this sort of existence out there, this racist, shallow, dumbass existence of, oh, you're a different color than me, so I have more privilege. I hope that you're as angry as I am about it. And if you see anybody else that's in comments or something like that that is doing some sort of more ignorant speech or anything like that, continue to try to post them. I don't have patience for it. It needs to be cut out. So during this area too, while they're talking about racism and the effects thereof, I'm not going to try to say that she's lying about racism, because chances are most everybody can address some racism in and of themselves and be a little bit better. And sure, say I'm copping out. I also didn't see any nonverbal communication of deceit during that, if that makes you happy. But if you're a racist, you're an idiot. That's all I've got to say. All right. Also, I don't know how to add moderators, so that's kind of where that came from. People are saying that Scooby is back? Nope. If he shows up again, let me know, and I'll block him as well. Yeah, I would love to be able to get a moderator on here. I just got to be honest, I'm not familiar enough with streaming. We're going back to the read, guys. Woo, man, what an exhausting time. Am I right?
And so I think even with that convention I'm talking about, while I was pregnant, they said they want to change the convention for Archie. Well, why?
Did you get an answer?
No.
You still don't have an answer?
No.
You know, we had heard, the world, those of us out here reading the things or hearing the things, that it was you and Harry who didn't want Archie to have a prince title. So you're telling me that is not true?
No, and it's not our decision to make, right? Even though I have a lot of
Can you hear me? You can. Okay, so I'm still frustrated by racists. Forgive me. Just a little flustered by idiocy in general. During this time, she's still flashing a lot of contempt, and also some lip compressions are flashing up in there as well, which means that she has more words that she wants to add to this, and the contempt lets me know that they're not nice words. And during this time, she has to compose herself and be good, be kind and proper in front of this, but sometimes that's the way it works. Let's see here. Oh, great. Good. I don't know how to add a moderator, so I'm going to scroll down until I find. Here we go. Oh, my computer froze anyways. What a fun time, guys. I just don't have patience for people today, and I just, I can't do it. Hide, there we go. Let's see. Who wants to be a moderator of the channel? Raise your hand. Let's see here. And I will allow you to go ahead and get on top of stupidity. I need some help with that, especially in this area. because I just don't have patience. And I know that that's like a big YouTube no-no to be like, oh, well, don't let the people get to you or whatever, but I don't care. I cannot handle ignorance on any level during this time. Let's see here. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm gonna find moderator. Now, I am gonna go really far out on a limb here, and I don't know if this is a good idea. Freebird, you are our moderator. Congratulations. Sam, I've seen you a couple times, and as soon as my comment section catches up, I will let you be a moderator. I feel like I have no idea. Hey, Miss the Riot, I'm adding you as moderators, and this could be a really bad idea because I haven't checked any of y'all. So let's see here. Sam, where are you? Where are you? Sam, I just saw you. Here you are. And moderators. So I have got a few moderators on here. I appreciate it. If you see any stupidity, any racism, sexism, or any other genuine, just dumb ignorance, feel free to block and report. I appreciate it. I never stand for that, and I never will. So I appreciate your help. This will help us hopefully be able to move forward with a much better stream. Racism, sexism, and any other ism has no place in intellect. If you are one of those things, you are an idiot. And that's that. That's where I'll go ahead and cut that. I hope that you're able to, for the few moderators that are on here, I hope that you're able to keep up. I probably just welcomed a whole shitstorm at me. So good luck. And let's continue into the actual analysis, knowing that some people have other people's backs here. Because this channel isn't about that. It's not about being mean or cruel or anything like that. I'm here to be able to help people have a good time and learn. And racism doesn't do that. So that's enough of that. We're gonna go ahead and continue on through the read itself. We're all 6 minutes in and been streaming for an hour. So at this rate, we'll be done by like 1 in the morning. That'll be pretty good, right? I hope y'all are in it for the long haul. All right, turning off my microphone. Thank you so much, guys.
Clarity on what comes with the titles, good and bad, and from my experience, a lot of pain. And I, again, wouldn't wish pain on my child, but that is their birthright to then make a choice about.
Okay, so it feels to me like things started to change when you and Harry decided that you were not going to take the picture that had been a part of the tradition for years. And
We weren't asked to take a picture. That's also part of the spin that was really damaging. I thought, can you just tell them the truth? Can you say to the world, you're not giving him a title, and we want to keep him safe, and that if he's not a prince, then it's not part of the tradition? Just tell people, and then they'll understand.
Okay, so there's some more frustration and disgust coming out around the corners of her mouth and up here in her eyebrow area. She's having a lot of anger towards this issue in general. They're feeling like they've been pretty secluded around all of this. And I don't see any signals of deceit during this. Also, just real quick, I'm seeing a lot of people being like, yo, turn on slow mode. I would love to. So the issue is, I wish I could show this to you. This laptop here is what I am reacting to the video on so that I can stream it live with you. Then I have a monitor over here to help me monitor what the stream looks like. Just the footage, not the chat or anything. The chat is supposed to function from this computer, but since I'm using it for the React, I can't use it for the chat. Meaning that I am logged into my other account on this guy here, watching the chat, and oh my good Lord, there are just so many comments. It's just popping off. I'm trying to see if I can do anything to help slow the, yeah, so slow mode's activated on this one, but it's not activated anywhere else. So I'm going to see if I could fix that real quick, especially for the moderator side of things, because it's pretty difficult, kind of difficult to work with when the chat's flying by at 2 billion miles an hour. Let's see here, stream settings. Yeah, it's not going to let me try to change this until unless I was popped over here on the actual deal. That's very discouraging. I could pop out my chat, but that won't help. Well, hold on a second here. Oh, ideas have come into play. Can I drag that over to here? I sure think I can. Ooh, I think your boy was able to do it. Maybe. Still having trouble. I don't know if this is going to help anything. Let's see here. Channel. Bet y'all didn't plan on this part of being part of a stream. I know I sure didn't plan on it being part of a stream. See, this is the way it goes though, right? It wouldn't be fun if there wasn't 17 different things to go wrong. Oh, let's see here. Live chat, enable, save. Okay. Changes were saved. This should slow it down. No promises. No promises at all. All right, and I'm gonna go pop back over onto here. Y'all just had no idea that all of this was gonna be part of the live today, did you? I can't say that I will probably do another live stream like this just because of the sheer intensity as to what's going on. But I am having at least a good time. Can people hear me? Yeah, I'm hoping that people can hear me. All right, okay, looks like the moderators are trying to take care of stuff. I hope so. I'm gonna trust that you are, and I'm gonna switch over and continue on our read of this very weighty interview.
But they wouldn't do that.
But you both obviously were aware that that had been a part of the tradition, and was there a specific reason why you didn't want to be a part of that tradition? I think many people interpreted that as you were both saying, we're going to do things our way, or we're going to do things in a different way.
That's not it at all. I mean, I think what was really hard.
So she says that's not it at all. During this entire time, she has her hand here, which there's some various forms of this specific gesture. This is different from this, is different from this, is different from this. All of those have different emotional weights behind them, though there can be some bleed over effect. Long story short, though, she does have some psychological processing that's happening. And when a person's sitting here like this, especially if they have their finger over their mouth, that means they have words that they want to say. This was one of my favorite ones to use back when I was in university full time, is that I would watch to see which kids were bored by the tapping of their feet and which kids had stuff that they wanted to add to the discussion by who was covering their mouth. And inevitably, you could see it progress throughout the entirety of the class. So if you're in classes, try it yourself. You'll have a great time with it. So she had things that she wanted to say about it, but she wasn't going to. And then, along with that, when she has to start addressing it, she has a really heavy eye block, and she also looks away. And all of this is pushing me to believe that there is something that needs to be said here that she's not saying. And whether that's because she's guilty of something, I don't know. I simply don't know. I don't get to ask her. I just get to see what I see. So something's happening here that she's not saying that should be said. And whether that's positive or negative for her, we cannot say. I would be leaning towards probably negative for her, otherwise she would probably have said it, but that's my opinion. That's not what the science shows. The science just shows that she has something she needs to say. I hope that makes sense. And I hope that helps add a little bit of clarity to that. I know that it's pretty muddy, pretty darn muddy, but let's keep it going.
So picture now that you know what was going on behind the scenes, right? There was a lot of fear surrounding it. I was very scared of having to offer up our baby, knowing that they weren't going to be kept safe.
You certainly must have had some conversations with Harry about it and have your own suspicions as to why they didn't want to make Archie a prince. What are those thoughts? Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because of his race? And I know that's a loaded question, but
I can give you an honest answer. In those months when I was pregnant, all around this same time, so we have in tandem the conversation of he won't be given security, he's not going to be given a title, and also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
Okay. So during that time, all that I'm seeing from her non-verbally is frustration, anger, and contempt. They're coming up through clenching of these muscles back in here. That's a common one. You can see that with just about anyone. It's coming through light narrowing of her eyes. This is suspicion or contempt. It's also coming through the furrowing of her brow, also contempt. And lightly here at the very, very end, she has a slight jutting forward of the bottom of her face. Her chin juts forward. This is a defiance gesture. So not only is she feeling contempt and anger and frustration, but she's also feeling defiance, which that doesn't lend towards authenticity or deceit. It just lends to an understanding of her emotional state. Because that's really what nonverbal communication is telling us, is the emotional state of a person. Eventually, you can push and chip away at what an emotional state is to understand why it is, and that's where deception and authenticity comes in. But the initial face value things that we can gather from footage like this is going to be what they feel about what they're saying. And if what they're feeling is not lining up with what they're saying, that's the red flag that you're looking for. So during this time, there's not anything to push towards a red flag. There's just not. But there is enough for me to say that she's angry about this. And if what she's saying is true, she has every right to be angry. I don't care who she is. As soon as racism precludes or excludes you from being able to be a part of something, you should be angry about it, because that's horseshit. Color of skin is never a reason to exclude somebody from anything. Just shouldn't be that way. So her anger is justified. If you disagree with me, I have questions for you too. But that's what I'm seeing here. We're gonna go ahead and just keep a rolling. I'm trying to occasionally check in here to see what the moderators are doing and how things are going in here. And I think that it's going a little better, but I'm not sure. I'm gonna have trouble keeping up with the comments. So if things go nuts in there, I won't really know. But I'm hoping that things are going okay. So thanks.
what?
And
Who is having that conversation with you? What?
Notice she didn't answer that question, who is having that conversation with you, but she does a pretty sizable gulp during that time. The reason is because nobody had specifically that conversation with her, and we find that out later. But non-verbally speaking, that's letting me know that something's going on there. Something is processing, and I wouldn't know unless I had, right now, the glory of hindsight. I wouldn't know what that extra processing is, but there is something there. And that's how this method works, is that you have to take evidence as it comes in and discover as it comes along, not go in with an idea and hopefully find out what happens from there. So during this time, we find out that people didn't have that conversation with her. People had that conversation with Harry, and Harry told her about it. And that's where we're seeing this nonverbal misalignment and lack of response to an important question.
So,
There is a conversation. Hold up.
there's
Stop
several
right now.
there are several conversations.
There's a
about it
conversation with you
with Harry.
about how dark your baby is going to be?
Potentially, and what that would mean or look like.
Ooh. And you're not going to tell me who had the conversation?
I think that would be very damaging to them.
Okay. So how does one have that meeting?
That was relayed to me from Harry. Those were conversations that family had with him. And I think
Whoa.
it was really hard to be able to see those as compartmentalized
Because they were
conversations.
concerned that if he were too brown, that would be a problem. Are you saying that?
I wasn't able to follow up with why, but that if that's the assumption you're making, I think that feels like a pretty safe one. Which was really hard to understand, right? Especially when, look, the Commonwealth is a huge part of the monarchy, and I lived in Canada, which is a Commonwealth country, for 7 years, but it wasn't until Harry and I were together that we started to travel through the Commonwealth. I would say 60-70% of which is people of color, right? And growing up as a woman of color, as a little girl of color, I know how important representation is. I know how you want to see someone who looks like you in certain positions.
Obviously.
Even Archie, like we read these books, and now there's one line in one that goes, if you can see it, you can be it. And he goes, you can be it. And I think about that so often, especially in the context of these young girls, but even grown women and men who, when I would meet them in our time in the Commonwealth, how much it meant to them to be able to see someone who looks like them in this position. And I could never understand how it wouldn't be seen as an added benefit and a reflection of the world today, at all times, but especially right now, to go, how inclusive is that you can see someone who looks like you in this family, much less one who's born into it.
You'd said.
Okay, so I stayed quiet for that the entire part because I am not in a position to speak for a woman of color here. I am a white guy, and right now my grounds to stand on are pretty small, and I understand that. And so I'm going to just say, in regards to the comments, I haven't been able to look at them, but moderators, if you're seeing anybody who is being racist on any level, I don't care who the race is that they're being racist to, it's not permissible. Please block them. I'm sure you're doing a good job, and I appreciate that. And now, just speaking to people in general, racism is never acceptable. It's never acceptable. The only people who support racism are the people that are on top. Those are the only ones that ever support racism. And that's just not okay. It's never okay. So during this time, if you're disagreeing with Meghan, I don't care if you disagree with her. I don't care if you disagree with her personality. I don't care if you disagree with her income or even just how she handles herself. I don't care. I don't care if you disagree with that. That's your right. That's your prerogative. You can do that. But if you disagree with the fact that racism is existent oftentimes in places of power, then I'm going to start disagreeing with you as well. And that does kind of mean that I have the ability to block you, because racism should not exist. It should not, and it still does. It's unfortunate, but it still does. I get real frustrated with this area. Really frustrated, especially living up north. You can see a lot of just overt racism and ignorance and people that are just utterly convinced that what they have to say applies to everyone, regardless of skin color and so on and so forth. And if it's hateful, why are you wasting people's time? Just why? I won't speak on her opinions on race because she has the right to those opinions. And frankly, I agree that there needs to be representation everywhere for all people of all nationalities, regardless. That needs to happen. I'm not gonna talk about this part. And I know that for those of you who are negative Nancy's in the comment section, if you're there, I'm speaking only to you. For everybody else who's being really, really nice, thank you. I appreciate it. That's the kind of people that we need in the world. You'll go further than people who are stupid and racist, because believe it or not, people are figuring that out, that racism is a waste of time. But thank you for being kind instead of stupid. And for those that are upset at me because I'm not going to talk about this area, I don't care. I don't care. I've said what I need to, and trying to talk about deception or lies centered around these sorts of issues is just diverting attention from issues that need to be addressed before. I'm sorry if you wanted me to go in and dive into lies. Once again, I'm not seeing anything that's showing up as a lie. I'm seeing frustration, I'm seeing disappointment, I'm seeing contempt, and these are continuous throughout all of it. I'm seeing eye blocking in areas where I would like to question more, but it's not my place. And there's the issue that's being discussed that's more important. So I know that this is just really not going to go well at all on the internet for me to not do what my channel is supposed to do in this area. And I just don't care. I'm still here and I'm still a human, and I'm frustrated by racists. And I think that's a more important thing than trying to figure out drama between royal families. So if you're a racist, you're an idiot. If you're a sexist, you're an idiot. If you're an ist on anything like that, you're an idiot. We're going to go ahead and try to move on forward with some more enlightening, perhaps informative sides of this entire interview.
In a podcast that it became almost unsurvivable. And that struck me because it sounds like you were in some kind of mental trouble. What was actually going on? Almost unsurvivable sounds like there was a breaking point.
Yeah, there was.
Okay, so they're talking about unsurvivability of situations and a breaking point. Now, this is something that a lot of people have issues with, regardless of your class, so on and so forth. And she has some disgust for that area. The blinking and looking away and slight movement of the corners of her mouth. She has some negative emotion centered around disgust, perhaps contempt, in regards to that breaking point. Understandably, many people who have arrived at that point, they aren't proud of it. They're frustrated by themselves. They're frustrated that it got to that point. And at that point, I can relate to her. That frustration is real. That just anger with yourself of that being a point that you can get to is very real. And she's not lying on this. And I don't see any evidence so far of her even embellishing, like exaggerating on anything. It just seems to be synchronized.
I just didn't see a solution. I would sit up at night and I was just like, I don't understand how all of this is being churned out. And again, I wasn't seeing it, but it's almost worse when you feel it through the expression of my mom or my friends or them calling me crying, just like, Meg, they're not protecting you. And I realized that it was all happening just because I was breathing. And look, I was really ashamed to say it at the time, and ashamed to have to admit it to Harry, especially, because I know how much loss he's suffered.
Out of necessity. During this time, she has some stilted nonverbal communication. It's popping up in an area that doesn't line up exactly. So she says a word, and then she does a gesture, and then more words flow, and then she does another gesture, and it becomes desynchronized. So during this part, that lends me to believe that this could be her pushing her feeling a bit so that people understand perhaps, or maybe to gain pity. I don't know. All that I'm seeing is that her body language is desynchronizing. It's falling apart just lightly here. And I would have to ask why. I don't have that privilege. But during this part, it seems forced. At least the emotion seems forced. And there's not enough for me to say that that's guaranteed, but that is what is being prevalent to me. The most apparent answer to that is that it would be forced or embellished slightly. The emotion behind it now. Not saying that the actual incident isn't real, but the emotion she's saying now seems to be lightly embellished. Don't at me.
But I knew that if I didn't say it, that I would do it. And I just didn't want to be alive anymore. And that was a very clear and real and frightening, constant thought. And I remember how he just cradled me, and I went to the institution, and I said that I needed to go somewhere to get help. I said that I've never felt this way before, and I need to go somewhere. And I was told that I couldn't, that it wouldn't be good for the institution. And I called.
So the institution is never a person, or is it a series of people?
No, it's a person.
It's a person.
It's several people, but I went to one of the most senior people to get help. And that, I share this because there's so many people who are afraid to voice that they need help. And I know personally how hard it is to not just voice it, but when you voice it, to be told no. Oof. And so I went to human resources. And I said, I need help, because in my old job, there was a union and they would protect me. And I remember this conversation like it was yesterday, because they said, my heart goes out to you because I see how bad it is, but there's nothing we can do to protect you because you're not a paid employee of the institution. This wasn't a choice. This was emails and begging for help, saying very specifically, I am concerned for my mental welfare. And people going, oh, yes, it's disproportionately terrible what we see out there to anyone else, but nothing was ever done. So we had to find a solution.
Okay. During that time, once again, the only thing that leapt off the page to Can you hear me? I feel like it might be back. I think the stream is back. It popped up on my deal. I've got to check here real quick. Stream was interrupted. Streams are interrupted when copyrighted. Streamed. Okay, well, do you know what this means? So this is the situation. It is currently being blocked because of copyright. And what it says in this email that I just got is that if I continue to stream the copyrighted material, it will be blocked again. So since I took it off of the screen and since it's now back on me, they're like, oh, well, you're fine. You're cool. You can keep going. And that is why I'm able to be here now talking to you. And by the way, the claimant is CBS. They don't want this entire, they don't want this interview going on. They don't want people seeing it again, not without paying them money. So I'm stuck now because it says very clearly in the email that if I continue with the copyrighted material, it will be claimed again. And I don't know what to do about that, guys. I can't keep going. Here's the thing. You're watching already a video that's been switched, zoomed in, and saturation dropped and contrast enhanced. That usually will fool a copyright system because they're systems that work automatically. They find pixel lineups and then they claim it automatically. And even with those measures, it's still claiming it, which means that it could be an audio. Now, I could speed the stream up, like I could speed the video up, but that makes it immensely more difficult for me to catch things like a 4th second microexpression that pops in here and there. So I'm trying to figure out what I can do to be able to get this to you. And to be just very frank, the distinct possibility is that I'm going to have to try to do, I'm going to try a little bit more, but I'm going to fast forward to the actual interview between Harry and Meghan just to see if we can get to that point. If we can get to that point, that's really good, and I'm pretty happy with that. But if we can't, then I suppose that's what it has to be. But I'm going to go ahead and go towards the area where Harry comes in, see if I can continue with the stream. If I can't, I'll see if I can get it over onto like Vimeo and then upload it to like Patreon or something like that to where it never touches YouTube's broken copyright system. I'm not sure if that will work, but I would like to. And for those of you that are suggesting slow motion, we have been doing this stream already for an hour and a half, and we are through 10 minutes of it, and it is 50 minutes long. And if I slowed that down, that would make it even longer. And I would love to be able to do that, but I have still a lot of business stuff that I've got to take care of, and this is already going to take a lot of that time. It's already taking a lot. So I don't know that I can do the slow motion side of things. Regardless, I do want to see if I can get this content up to you. Let's head to the part with Harry and Meghan, start observing some of that because Harry's tells are telling, and I want to address some of the lies that people are spreading based off of unfounded nonverbal research in regards to their relationship. There are some things that we need to just take care of and be understanding of just the limitations of the science of nonverbal communication. And I'd like to be able to get to that part. So let's try it. I don't think that it will like tag my channel or demonetize me completely. I sure hope not. But this is for you guys. I want to be able to see if I could still get this out here for you because I do really care about getting this to you. So I am going to pull this back up real quick here. I am fast forwarding. Oh boy, there is a lot of footage of Harry and Meghan. And I can foresee this possibly going a little poorly. Let's see here. Zooming forward here. And for those of you who are saying don't risk it, I like to live life dangerously. So I'm going to risk it just a little bit. I don't like to live it super dangerously, just a little dangerously. I'm not superstitious, I'm just a little stitious. Okay. I hope that this will work out. If this doesn't work out, it'll flag it again, and then I will turn it off. And I might be able to do something like you're suggesting. Do it on Twitch. Something like
To join us. We'll be right back with Harry. So, hi.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us.
that didn't take long. So something that Harry's doing is this thing. This fidgeting with his wedding ring. Inexperienced nonverbal analysts or people that have read a pop icon, pop culture kind of our article will say, see, that means that he's upset about their relationship because they're fiddling with the ring, and that's just unfounded. That somebody was bored in their basement and wrote that up. It's not true. It's very rare that people will fidget with these sorts of things in relation to a relationship. What it is true is that this is something that he has adapted. So when you're trained to interact in front of people regularly, you're trained to manage your stress in certain ways. For men, a lot of the times, adjusting cufflinks and cuffs will be one of those ways. And this is both a nervous gesture as a way of fidgeting that doesn't come across as unattractive, like it's like, yes, I'm being regal and pristine, but it's really a nervous gesture, and it's also a blocking gesture. Harry has adapted that now to his wedding ring. It's the same mindset. It's nerves, and it's a light blocking gesture. So this is something that has popped up in his past, and he uses regularly. He'll sit there and fidget with his ring. Has nothing to do with his relationship. Disbanding that nonsense right now. Let's see if we can keep watching this video before it gets blocked again.
Thanks for having me.
You've been watching on the side?
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yes. I want to say, first of all, let's say congratulations
Thank you.
for the new edition.
It's really not taking long for me to find places to pause. So since I've already spent so much time with Meghan's body language, I think we've got the idea. With Harry's, he also has a regular contempt smile, that he has a lopsided smile that comes across as being contemptuous, I believe. Contemptual. I always get mixed up with those words. But he has this smile that could indicate contempt. But since it pops up so regularly in his baseline, it's not really a reliable tell of contempt unless it's exaggerated, which can happen for people who have a lopsided smile in general. If you read that as contempt all the time, you'll get a misread, but if there are still spikes to that baseline, then you have to take note of them. So you could see that just lightly on the one side of his face, his smile's a little bit higher. He's also much more softly spoken. He always has been, and that comes across in this. Meghan is a more outspoken personality. Harry is a less outspoken personality. This has led people to feel that Meghan is a dominating presence in the relationship, which could be true. There's not enough evidence to really say that. But my question is, are those people considering personality types and how their dynamic works in general? There's always that person who is more of an outgoing person and a less outgoing person in a relationship. It happens. It really does. We just have to look at it in light of that rather than these are famous people. Let's really amplify everything far and above. But let's see. Let's see if there are any controlling gestures. Let's see if there are any manipulation gestures. Let's pay attention to Harry's body language. He's asked some important questions throughout this, and I think his responses are telling. And we will talk about that as it comes along. So I'm going to try to do that and keep these to be pretty short, little brief streams. I don't know if I'm going to make it past the copyright system, guys, but hey, if I do, I suppose we all owe ourselves a round of applause because that's pretty rare. But let's go ahead and give this a shot.
In addition to your family, Meghan said she wanted to wait until you were here to tell us, is it a boy or is it a girl?
You can tell her.
No, go for it.
No.
It's a girl.
You're gonna have a daughter. Wow.
It's a girl.
When you realized that and saw it on the ultrasound, what was your first thought?
So I've seen a couple other nonverbal analysts that, once again, it's this pop culture nonverbal analyst style of thing, to where they see and read into certain things far too much. One of those things is holding hand positions. I don't know how many of you have held hands with other persons, but depending on hand sizes and depending on comfort of joints and muscles, you can hold hands in whatever way you want, and it really doesn't have to mean a thing. So Meghan has her hand up. Fun, right? Okay, guys. Well, I guess I'm back as long as I only do this. I will look into possibly being able to move over to Switch or to Switch. to Twitch. Sure, I'll move over to playing Switch too, but I will look to see about maybe doing this on Twitch and pulling it off that way. If I do that, I will post a video on YouTube letting you know. So you can see that video and know, okay, Twitch is a thing. This is my biggest concern, is that I am so stressed for time that trying to open up another deal and continue another side of things and learn another platform might be stretching me a wee bitty bit thin. I'm going to go ahead and let you know this is what I feel, centered around Harry and Meghan, just in case nothing else can happen of this, or if copyright continues to happen. But if it does, also, by the way, it's both the video and the audio. Both are still being claimed. That just means that CBS has learned the rudimentary things that you can do to kind of get past a copyright system, and they're evolving above it. And I think what their approach is that they're illegally claiming everything, and then I can dispute it, and then they just leave it be, and it has to sit under dispute for about a month before anything can happen with it. And even then, it can still be removed at any point during that time. So they have all of the power, and it's really unfortunate. I don't have any control over this situation. Anyway, I'll see about moving it over to Twitch. That being said, during this time, the relationship dynamic between Harry and Meghan. Throughout this, you can see Meghan's hand is regularly on top of Harry's hand. And a lot of people would like to say, see, that is an indicator that she is controlling him. And that's not an indicator that she's controlling him. That's just how they hold hands. They always have, and they likely always will. The position of hand holding is far too read into because of a lot of pop culture references to nonverbal communication. It's not as important in that. Handshakes, you can read more into how they actually play out because those are intentional and usually not between people of affection. Not a lot of people that are like married are like, yes, let's go ahead and shake some hands. But hand holding, it doesn't really matter. On top or bottom, sides, whatever, it's just hand holding. So the fact that they are holding hands, that's good. That implies that their relationship is doing somewhat okay. And another thing, that if you want to really be able to hash out whether a person is more controlling over another person, is to pay attention to the eye contact. During times of intense pressure or anything along those lines, a person who is in the submissive side of things or is being controlled will check in a lot with the person that controls them. Just even if it's subconscious, small little glances, just like checks over. That's common because they have to check in to make sure that they're not going to get into trouble now or later. And the person who is dominating will stare down or not make any eye contact. One of those two. They don't have that dynamic. Harry checks in when she's talking, listens to her attentively, but when he's talking, it's his thing. He's still his own person, and she pays attention while he's talking. Neither of them are staring the other down. There's not that manipulation indicator in there. Along with that, there are some instances during this time that Meghan will want to say something and reach over. And she does it, I think maybe once or twice, where he's saying something and she reaches over and says something. That is indeed a little bit of a power move. That's a power move from Meghan. Anytime that you reach over and put your hand on somebody else and start talking over them, that's a power move. That is a rare instance in this specific interview. In this interview, and basing it off of this and only a little bit of others, that means that their relationship is far more balanced. And if you watched the initial interview itself, there were other segments where you could see them interacting outside of this setting. During those times, they are also very balanced with how they act. They check in regularly with each other. There's no dominations from one side or another, and there's no attempt to overlord or overtalk on the other person. That's a good sign. That means that their relationship is likely far more balanced than what tabloids or clickbait titles would like you to believe. But if I did have to say, Meghan is the more dominating personality. She's more outgoing. She has a history that is centered around speaking. An actress has to speak. And so that sort of personality is a more dominating personality than Harry's. Harry's more soft-spoken and laid back. That doesn't mean that she is controlling him. There has to be that line, that you understand that there is a line. Dominating personalities are not controlling personalities. They can be. Easy to shift there. But that doesn't mean that they are. And just because Harry's soft-spoken doesn't mean that he doesn't have the ability or the willpower to speak. He just chooses not to. That's really important to be able to note, because I see that. I see that a lot in comments, and I just wanted to bring light to that. Also, throughout that, speaking on Harry's body language in regards to certain family members. He iterates regularly, verbally, that he has a good relationship with the Queen. He says that often. And that's important. He makes that distinguishment verbally multiple times, and we would be foolish to not take note of that. It's rare that he makes that distinguishment, and he will also leave certain people out of that distinguishment to go along with that. he also has multiple flashes of contempt throughout these areas where he's talking about a couple different people. And it's interesting. One of which is Charles, and the other one is William. Multiple times he has contempt flashes while referring to them, also centered around the conversation of color of their child. Contempt pops up. Now here, let me make something clear. Harry has had some very bad decisions in the past. He has shown his racism prevalently, or at least his lack of care of the issue of racism. And it's very hard to, in fact, every single person has some ingrained level of racism. It's up to them to decide whether or not they're going to improve themselves on that point. Every single person has that, regardless of skin color, nationality, upbringing, period. It's inside our genes. It's up to us to decide whether or not we're going to be better people or worse people. So that being said, we already know that on some level, Harry's a racist. Also, on other levels, he's shown things that he at least doesn't care. At one point in his life, at least, he didn't care about racism. Now, people are saying, well, see, here's the thing. Meghan came into Harry's life, and then all of this stuff changed, and then he left the party. And even in this interview, he says, I don't know that I would have left if it weren't for Meghan. And people are like, oh, see, she's controlling him. And that could be true. That really could be true. But that's not necessarily always the case. You can't immediately leap to one conclusion and stick with it. The other possibility is perhaps they're trying to be better people. And no, they likely are not the best people. A lot of people in fame are often skewed on some level because they're detached or because they just don't realize what it's like to actually have to be a human for a little bit, because everything's either been handed to them or they've lived in such a secluded little bubble that they just have no idea. So I get that. They're likely not great people. But from what I saw during this interview, they're at least attempting to make strides in certain areas to be better people. Do they want more money? Almost certainly. Every person who has money always wants more money. Just about everybody does want money. But yes, I get what you're saying. They're just money hungry, blah, 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 blah. I get that, and that is a frustration. That is genuinely a frustration, but that doesn't exclude the fact that they could be trying to be better people. They could be trying to improve. And from their nonverbal communication throughout this interview, there were no signs of actual full-on deceit. Not that I was even able to push into. There were definite signs of misalignment in areas related to many relationships that they had and certain emotions that went along with certain circumstances. So if I had to give my final analysis, Meghan and Harry are now much happier than they were before. They always want more money. They are happy together. They're happy about their kids that they're going to have, and they do have. And they have strained relationships with both sides of their families. And those come out enough in a nationally televised and prepped for interview for them to be extreme. Excuse me. So during all of this time, all of these people that are just wanting to be angry, I get you, it's easy to be angry. It's really easy to be angry, and there are oftentimes really good reasons to be angry. My point of view is yes, I could be angry at these people who were born into privilege and have had privilege all of their lives and had everything handed to them, and I could be angry about it. And that would affect me. I would be angry about that, and it would never benefit me. I would just be angry. Or, alternatively, I could look at this and be like, I have seen multiple times of them showing sincerity. I have heard their words, and I can hope that they're going to improve who they are and what they are from here on out. And that would leave me feeling better. And in the long run, it doesn't matter what you feel about them because it won't affect them. They're going to do what they want to do. And the only thing you can control is how you feel about it. So if you want to be angry about it, go ahead. It's all you. All you. I'm going to wrap up by saying, you know what? If you're a racist, you're an idiot. If you're a sexist, you're an idiot. We've been over that. And it's way better for everybody if everybody spends more time being kind to other people than being angry about things they can't control. That's just the long and short of it. I will see if I can actually put this live somewhere for you. If I can get it up on Patreon, maybe on Twitch, maybe on like Vimeo, and then put it on somewhere. I'll see what I can do. I have a lot of other requests coming in, not the least of which is for the recent Netflix documentary centered around the murder, something about Mormon and murder. I don't remember the title. There's something in that I have to start diving into, so I'm going to be looking into that. That should be coming out the 19th of this month, so a week from today. And we'll have something else on Monday. You'll get to find out what that is. But that's kind of where I'm going to wrap this up. I'm so sorry that this went nothing like I hoped it would. I really hoped that this would go really well. For one last time, I think the most donations that I got were for the $10 or $5. And I will wrap up with that. I would like to say to the mods, specifically, thank you. Oh my God, this gets so fuzzy so fast. Thank you so much for stepping in and helping control people. I love the internet, but it also can give footage to people who are just trolls. They want to be there to stir up problems because they have nothing better to do with their sad lives. And then also people who are just mean also have that platform. And I appreciate you wanting to step in and help keep this community, the community of Observe, a little bit nicer. There's so many areas on the internet, especially on YouTube, that everybody is just so mean. It's so negative. It's so hurtful. And I don't want to be a part of that. I really don't want to play into that. I want to be able to bring happiness and just knowledge, new knowledge perhaps, or at least entertainment to people that isn't just riddled with people being mad at people. That's my ultimate goal. But I do greatly appreciate it. I hope you enjoy my hair today. Check it out. Honestly, if I have to be honest, this is my favorite one. This is it. The longer one that's like way over the top and way raggedy. This is the kind of hair that I always wanted when I was a kid. Just without fail, I always wanted to have like this long hair that I could be like, oh, I'm so cool. But I have never had that. My hair from day one has been thin, like wispy, and then it quickly decided to leave as soon as I got into college. So I get to just live vicariously through throwing on wigs and pretending like I had hair. So thanks for putting up with some of my shenanigans here today. Thank you for joining me on the stream itself. And for those of you who were just here to have a good time, I hope you still had a good time despite some of the drama that was stirred up here today. And for those of you who are working your hardest to be a kind person, thank you. I am trying my best. I fail so many times, but I am trying my best to be as kind to people as I can, and I hope you are too. And if we all do a little bit of good work in that area, I think we as a large community, because this is a large community, I think we can make a difference here and there, at least in our personal lives. But I do believe that is all that I've got for the day. Mods, thank you again. You have been amazing. Yeah, without further ado, that's all I've got for today. My name is Logan, and you, all of you, have been oh so awesome as you always are. And I will see you in the next video or live stream or whatever, wherever it is. Cheers, guys. Oh, cheers, guys. There we go.